Yo, what's up guys? So this video that I've been working on turned out to be longer than I expected, so I divided it into two parts. If you haven't seen part 1, I recommend you check that out first. Otherwise, hope you enjoy. This next entry has to be my favorite one on the entire list, and it's the Grassy Plateaus, Sparse Reef, and Blood Kelp Trench border. I wanted so badly for this to be on the #1 spot, but statistically there's like pretty much two locations that are better slightly. You are right at the edge of the early game Grassy Plateaus, which means easy access to some of the best early game resources like sandstone and limestone outcrops with lots of salt deposits, lots of quartz. No need to chase around bladderfish anymore for water. You're also pretty close to mid-game areas as well, like the Sparse Reef. The Sparse Reef is the best place in my opinion to get gel sacks and rubies because there's so much of it, and you're right at the drop-off to late-game territory with the Blood Kelp Trench. Another place with lots of rubies and lots of uraninite crystals, but more importantly, a Lost River entrance. The Blood Kelp Trench entrance to the Lost River is probably the best entrance because going through the Bulb Zone corridor, there's a ghost leviathan guarding the entrance to the inactive lava zone from there. Going through the northern Blood Kelp zone into the Lost River is the ghost forest where another ghost leviathan is, and the Grand Reef entrance leads through the canyon that doesn't have a ghost leviathan. However, it takes you directly into the bone fields where there's a ghost leviathan right there to the giant gargantuan skeleton. But this Blood Kelp Trench entrance, it also leads to the bone field, but at the back end of it, whereas the ghost leviathan is the front. So the Blood Kelp Trench entrance to the Lost River is probably the best entrance because it's the only place where you can get straight to the Cove Tree without encountering a single leviathan. And also over this way to the right of the trench, you'll eventually end up in the dunes, and I know everyone hates the dunes because it's very scary, very dangerous, but I feel like the danger overlooks the amount of resources in the dunes. It's another great place for rubies and gel sacks and a lot of good wrecks. In terms of convenience, this spot is nearly a 10 out of 10. You see this little canyon trench area in the Grassy Plateaus? There's a small hole that leads to a small cave, and look what's right inside here. A sea crown. Sea crown is more rare than me getting a Tinder match. It is the rarest plant in the game, and it's very necessary for the end of the game. It's best to just collect a sample of it right away and just hold on to it to the end of the game. And guess what? That is not even the best part, because over here in the Sparse Reef, you can see that glowing plant in the distance. That's eye stalk, another important plant in the game. And I'm not even kidding, in the Blood Kelp Trench, although it's further out and a little bit deeper, is ghostweed. So you literally have 3 of the 5 required plants to make the hatching enzymes all right next to you. So you are literally in the intersection of early game, mid game, and late game areas, and getting the benefits that all 3 of those biomes come with. Very difficult to find an area better than this, honestly. All 3 biomes by you have great wrecks as well. The Sparse Reef has a really good wreck. However, I forget which fragments are in there, but I remember it being pretty good. But there's a fantastic wreck that's wedged in the trench of the Blood Kelp zone. Not only does it have a lot of moon pool fragments and other useful stuff like Cyclops upgrades, but directly underneath the wreck is the Lost River entrance. And probably the best early game wreck in the whole game is in the Grassy Plateaus right there. It's like the best wreck to get modification station fragments, stasis rifle fragments, and a lot of more stuff. Right next to that wreck is Life Pod 17, as well as an entrance to the Jelly Shroom Caves that has a Degassi base and lots of shale outcrops and magnetite. And here's one of my favorite parts of this whole list. If you see this border right here that's right in between the Grassy Plateaus and Sparse Reef, you can see where the blood grass like ends. If you just follow the edge of where this grass ends and you just follow it east, guess where it takes you? Right here. the Grand Reef. I've already said this a few times, but the Grand Reef is one of the best biomes, or at least my personal favorite, in the whole game. Just about every resource is here, and there's just so much to see, and it's so pretty. But even better, if you just go directly down from this drop-off and a little bit to the left, it takes you to yet another wreck, and again, this wreck is one of the best wrecks in the entire game. A couple of Cyclops fragments, and some data boxes and other stuff. Now, I know this is kind of far away from the base location, but very easy to access if you just follow the Sparse Reef Grassy Plateaus border. Much like the Bulb Zone and Mountains border in the first entry, all three biomes are potentially safe, except maybe the Blood Kelp Trench, because there are warpers and amp eels in there. But the Grassy Plateaus doesn't really have anything besides the sand sharks and the biters, which are constantly everywhere, and they're annoying as hell, but they're hardly even a threat at all. And the Sparse Reef doesn't really have any dangerous creatures either, so you're very safe here actually. Not only that, but both the Grassy Plateaus and the Sparse Reef are very flat and open, base friendly. You don't have to worry about running out of space. You can build a gigantic base here and still have room. I guess the only thing that really stops this from being number one is scenery, yet the scenery is still not that bad at all. The Sparse Reef is kind of an ugly biome, there's nothing visually appealing about it, but you can still get a pretty decent view if you face the Grassy Plateaus, because not only is it colorful and just lush, you can see the reef backs just gliding away. It's also a decent view if you build it as a drop-off into the Kelp Trench, but if it wasn't for that tiny flaw, I would probably put this as number one. This entry on the list is the closest to being in the middle of the map. Just the fact that you're right in the middle of everything in the game, what makes it one of the top base locations in the entire game. Coming in at number 2, we have the Cove Tree. Now, this one's pretty obvious. Everyone who plays Subnautica literally builds their base here, but it literally is just like the best place. Like, 10 out of 10 safety, 10 out of 10 open space, 10 out of 10 convenience. Like, this place literally has everything. Usually in my playthroughs, I always have 2 bases, one for like early to mid game and then one late game. I usually build my first base in the last location with the Grassy Plateaus, Sparse Reef, and Blood Kelp Trench. And my second base is pretty much always the Cove Tree. Now let me show you why. At the Cove Tree, you're quite literally at the base entrance of the inactive lava zone. That's like the main thing about this spot. Also, in the Cove Tree biome, there are literally thermal vents like all around you for base power. And like I said before, this is one of the few spots in the entire game that's entirely safe. There are no predators in this area at all. And there's all these little platforms in this lake, and it makes for some pretty interesting base designs, as you can build multi-purpose rooms on each platform and then connect them with eye compartments. And right outside of the Cove Tree, you just go straight ahead. It eventually leads you to the Bone Fields, which is the center of the whole Lost River. Outside of the Cove Tree to the left, it leads you to the Ghost Forest, which has an alien portal in it, and it'll take you to the primary containment facility, so that's easy travel. Now, in the Ghost Forest, there is a Ghost Leviathan here, but he's pretty easy to avoid. He usually hangs out on the left side of the Ghost Forest, so if you just hug the right side, you can get past him almost every time without even encountering him. And plus, on the right side, there's a waterfall, which behind the waterfall is the alien portal I was talking about. Correction, the alien portal is located behind a waterfall that's on the right corner of the Ghost Forest. But it still isn't a big deal because the Ghost Leviathan hangs out in the middle right, and the portal is in the top right. So if you just hug the left wall until you reach the end into the northern Blood Kelp zone, from there you can go across to the right side where there's a brine waterfall, and behind that waterfall is where the portal is. Coming back down these waterfalls, there's another large corridor to the left, and through here is the disease research facility. So you're right next to a lot of story and lore as well. I honestly personally like the Grassy Plateaus, Sparse Reef, Blood Kelp Trench location better, but judging by statistics, there's just more stuff here, and there's just endless nickel and sulfur here. Pretty much the resources you can find here are used for crafting stuff to go deeper into the inactive lava zone. So that makes this, without a doubt, the best late game spot in the whole game. Before we move on to the final entry, here are a few honorable mentions. Okay, the first honorable mention is the Bone Field. You're right at the center of the Lost River, which means tons of sulfur, tons of nickel, tons of gel sacks. You're pretty much right at the intersection of the Lost River. The scenery here is killer. This is like one of the most visually stunning areas in the entire game. And it's very nice and open as well. Perfect for a base. This is one of the better spots for just getting creative. One thing I like to do is build an observation area right on the drop-off from the Ghost Canyon. I also like to build a base inside the mouth of the Gargantuan Skull. It's just such a killer spot. The only reason it didn't make the final cut is danger. There are a ton of river prowlers here, and there's also this juvenile ghost leviathan that you see right here. But this so would have made the list due to the amount of resources if it wasn't for the ghost leviathan. And there are so many valuable resources here, and a lot of what you need is here as well. So the Bone Fields pretty much leads to almost all of the exits to the Lost River. Pretty much directly to the west, this will lead you to the junction, which borders the Cove Tree Disease Research Facility, the Ghost Forest, which leads back to the Northern Blood Kelp Zone, and past the Disease Research Facility will eventually lead you through the Mountains Corridor, leading to the Bulb Zone. Southwest over here will eventually lead to the Blood Kelp Trench. In southeast here, towards where the skull is the Ghost Canyon, which eventually leads back to the Deep Grand Reef. It's a pretty good spot altogether. All you need is a stasis rifle and an inventory full of gas pods for that pesky ghost leviathan. The next honorable mention is the underwater island, specifically the largest underwater island, the one that's in the very center of the biome. Underneath these islands, on the seafloor, there's tons of thermal vents for power. And there's even a small thermal vent on this island. There's also tons of silver nodes, gold nodes, and uraninite crystals at the bottom as well. And a lot of shale outcrops that are on the islands. But one of the best strengths of this spot is that you're right next to a wreck. I've talked about this in my last Subnautica video, but this wreck is literally the best wreck in the entire game. Five data boxes, Cyclops engine fragments, which is safer than going to the back of the Aurora to get them. And the majority of Pronsu arm fragments are in this wreck as well. Pretty big, wide open, flat space as well, especially on the large central island. Or you can also build your base on the smaller islands above and have it like hang down. That's a cool design idea as well. Although these underwater islands look really cool, it still feels too empty for like good scenery. I wish there were even more of these islands. I feel like they didn't put enough in this biome. The reason why this didn't make the list is because bone sharks. This biome actually has the highest population of bone sharks, and they attack in groups. You can't even really properly live in this biome without repairing your sea moth like every 20 seconds that you're here. I swear, bone sharks are like more aggressive than reapers. If it wasn't for the hundreds of bone sharks here, this would be on the list for sure. But this sadly falls under the same fate as the bone fields. It's just too dangerous. Alright, this last honorable mention is the waterfall at the end of the Ghost Forest. Pretty much all of the Lost River's resources are here too, but there is a ghost leviathan in this, as I mentioned in the Cove Tree entry. I don't need to go over what's in here again because I pretty much covered it in the Cove Tree entry. Although the Ghost Leviathan here is kind of easy to avoid, the real reason why this didn't make the list is because it's just too close to the Cove Tree. There's not really a point in building a base in the Cove Tree and in here. And the Cove Tree is safer, and it's really a better spot than this one. but I would say this is slightly better if you want to be closer to an exit of the Lost River, because if you just go straight ahead through here, it'll lead you back out to Life Pod 2 in the northern Blood Kelp Trench. There's like hardly any building room in this biome, but I like to build on this waterfall drop-off and have like a hanging base that goes down the waterfall. Scenery is nice too, especially if it's facing the ghost forest. It's just an incredibly unique biome. But if you build the base down the waterfall and it's facing the waterfall, there's really nothing to look at because there's just a big like ceiling wall in front of it. What I like to do is build a base down the waterfall, but most of the windows are at the top that's facing the ghost forest, just for better scenery. But yeah, it's not a bad spot, it's just a little bit dangerous and just too close to the Cove Tree, which is a much better spot. And now for the number 1 spot. So, pretty much everyone in the Subnautica community thinks that the Cove Tree is the best base location, which is why some of you are probably confused as to why I didn't put it at number 1. But hear me out. The best location by far on this list is the primary containment facility. I know this sounds random, but you were in the middle of 5 portals, each going to different locations on the map, saving so much travel. It's nice and open. The terrain is not too flat, but not too jagged either. You can build a base down here just fine. However, if the Sea Emperor is alive, then it might get in the way sometimes while you're trying to build a base down here. It's also, again, 100% safe. The stalkers and bone sharks here don't actually attack you in the presence of the Sea Emperor, because the Sea Emperor has the ability to pacify surrounding predators. The only hostile creature is the sea dragon right outside of this base, but you never have to exit out that way since you got 5 portals that you can just take instead that leads you to places that are significantly less dangerous than the lava lakes. And the scenery is awesome too. The Sea Emperor is just so graceful. However, if the Sea Emperor is dead, then the entire place feels kinda empty and boring. But let's get to the next part. The portals. This first one goes to the Lost River, and it's specifically the ghost forest that this portal takes you to, so you don't have to exit the normal way through the lava biome. The second one leads to the crag fields. There's nothing too special about the crag fields, but there's a decent variety of resources here, but you're also right next to the Grand Reef as well, so it's good to be close to that. This third portal leads you to the bulb zone, where there's lots of rubies, and a few really good wrecks as well. This fourth portal takes you to the northwestern mushroom forest. This is the best portal of the 5 because the mushroom forest is kind of near the middle of the map and there's so many other valuable biomes that it borders. So there's literally just, you have access to pretty much almost any point in the whole game. Here's a map I created for where all the portal locations lead you to that are from the primary containment facility. As you can see, each portal leads to a completely different location in the map. They're not all in a similar spot. The Lost River one is northwest, the crag field is southeast, the bulb zone is northeast, and the mushroom forest is like midwest. And you get the benefits from all of those biomes as well. And also easy access to all the biomes adjacent to the ones that the portals lead to. Meaning you almost never need to travel very far ever again if your base is in the primary containment facility. And I really think that's what really made this the number 1 spot on this list. This spot is just near flawless, and there's only one downside I can think of, and it's not that bad. And that's that. You can't have any vehicles down here other than the prawn suit. However, through this 5th portal, it takes you to the mountains biome right underneath the alien gun, and directly up here in this like dock area, this is the perfect place to fit your Cyclops, and it's right outside of the portal. And I know it's kind of pointless to build here because you can't even access this area until after you've technically beat the game, and you spend such little time here at the end, which is, I think this is more of like a just for fun spot for like creative mode, but just this is the only spot in the entire game where you can properly fast travel. However, if you cured the disease and you don't want to leave the planet yet, then this is a perfect base spot for convenience, safety, and open space. So that brings us to the end of today's video. This turned out to be a lot longer than what I expected, so I might divide this into 2 parts, but either way I'll leave chapters in the video so you guys can just skip through and see what you want. This was really fun to do. I haven't seen anyone go this in-depth on base locations. Usually when there's like a top 10 base locations or something, they always rank by like how cool it looks, and I just wanted to rank by like mostly just like resources and what you're close to and everything. If I ever end up doing another one of these Subnautica videos, I think I might want to do like maybe every PDA location, every data terminal, data box, or maybe a guide to like complete your entire PDA by like scanning everything and getting everything, so that might be fun to do. But yeah, that's it for today. Peace out, y'all.